Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everyone, to Neon Twilight. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. Neon Twilight will be a monthly radio series over here at Nightlight. I'm very excited, actually. I will have no guests, no interviews, just a starlit sky-oriented chat under the cosmic design, discussing many mystical topics. And I want to say thank you to Barbara DeLong for opening a space for me over here at Nightlight and her wonderful radio network. And a shout-out to Mark Eddy as well. So just a hello to everybody out there. I hope everybody's doing well. Tonight I'll be discussing crystals and consciousness and how we go about utilizing gemstones in our daily life, and I'll get into healing properties and purposes. This will be a spiritually organic and somewhat freestyle communication, which I hope you'll enjoy. Trust everybody's doing okay in these worlds of strange right now. We've got some bizarro stuff going on in the timeline, so we're going to switch gears a little bit and get more enlightened today. And one of the reasons I want to shift gears is just to give you all a little bit more perspective about multiple world realities we experience every day. So we're going to dive into some subject matter, and I'm looking forward to communicating with you all tonight, so welcome. And first of all, I just want to dive into the aspect of crystals themselves. And why crystals? Just because it was the energetic signature of a crystal is an amplifier so far as the resonance effect and how it affects people at the cellular, molecular level when it comes down to when we're working with the crystal itself. So why are people attracted to the crystal? It's usually an energetic exchange, even on a very subliminal scale. You might notice when you go into a rock shop or a crystal store, there's always one particular crystal that feels right energetically speaking. It's just one that kind of sings to you when you're scanning your energy field and honing in on something you think you might need on a subconscious level. This also is about medicine. It's about the medicine from the multidimensional fields and the etheric connecting into your field to try to assist you on the timeline. So something to look at when people are honing in on crystals. And I know back in the day, of course, this was like 20 years ago or so, and people were really, really in tune to crystals. Nowadays, people kind of wear them, but I don't think they really get, or if they've forgotten to some degree, some of the things that they're actually working with when they're wearing the crystals themselves. So I just want to kind of go down a little timeline here and look at the time capsules of what we're dealing with when we're working with the crystals themselves. But so what does your psychic antenna tell you about the crystals? That's one thing that I'd like to mention also is following your intuition. It's how you're feeling insofar as the frequency you're getting, the vibration you're getting. Is the crystal hot? Does it feel warm to the touch? Is it cool? All of these things are components insofar as how that crystal is programmed and the energetic signature associated with it, which can help you. It can also help you heal. So those are the things that we look at with our psychic antennas when we're trying to pick the perfect crystal for us. I'm also going to go into some levels of which crystal might be better or versus the ones you might be attracted to for your own medical purposes or things you might want to utilize for your wellness. Do people need crystals? No, you don't need crystals, and just like you don't need specific jewelry. But if you're like me, I love jewelry, and I love specific jewelry with a symbolism to it or a vibration to it. And I can remember as far back as I don't know when. I mean, many moons ago. Even as a teenager, I was always attracted to the crystals, and I'm sure all of you can relate to that to some degree. There's a reason behind it. It reaches out to us on a subconscious level, on a spiritual level, and also more on an akashic level too. A lot of us who have been through different timelines of experience, and maybe lifetimes on and off planet, or even ancient civilizations, it might feel like we have a resonance with that particular field. And that's where the crystals come through for healing and resonators and amplification and correlation with ancient technologies and civilizations such as ancient Egypt and Atlantis and Lemuria. And we can get into that too. And I do, I speak pretty fast, so a good thing we can do a replay later. But this is probably as slow as I'll ever be able to get in the illusion of space and time, so bear with me here. But looking at your bioelectric suit, let's take a look at the field of energy you have. So you have your bioelectric suit, which vibrates on multidimensional fields simultaneously. Now, most people don't realize that their field of energy is even vibrating on multidimensional scales. They assume it's more linear, more three-dimensional, but you're actually vibrating on multidimensional waves, which means every field of energy is attuned to a different dimension. And that attunement will open up your psychic abilities or open up who you are on a multidimensional layer, which brings in a lot more power and level of consciousness to you once you're accessing and synchronizing the field itself. And once again, working with crystals or working with an aspect of something that amplifies your field or helps hone in the signals of your own vibration would be very beneficial there. So, and once again, this is another thing I want to mention too about the crystals themselves, how we program the crystals. And most crystals, if you purchase one or you're drawn to getting one, they usually have their own internal program that's been set in motion from the Akashic or from the records here on this world in the illusion of. And I always say in the illusion because we're in multidimensional fields. But that particular type of a program is there. If you want to create another program for it, then there is a way to do that by your own projection of energy and your own psychic ability interfacing with the crystal itself. And that's done through meditation or projection of the third eye, where you can literally just hone in on the field and visualize that crystal in your hand and actually program it from your third eye and state of consciousness, and you can actually rewrite a program if you so choose. Now, people do that when they're wearing crystals for protection and shielding or something extra they want to create with the particular crystal if they're giving it to a gift or as a gift to someone else. Some people do tend to program them. So just a heads up on that one. But it is given to you according to your beliefs. In other words, be careful what you wish for and how you manifest things, even on a subliminal scale, because your energetic signature is projected into the field. It's also projected into the jewelry you wear. So you're imprinting everything psychically, whether that's a ring or that's a necklace or that's a crystal. All these things get programmed in there. So you want to make sure that you're setting the intent with clarity. In other words, be careful of how you're thinking, where your mind is at, how scattered is it, how's the mental body, how is the emotional body, is it out of whack? Do a check on yourself and make sure that you have everything in balance and in sync is my suggestion on that when you're looking to program something. Also, you're shedding the density. And, whether you realize it or not, you're dropping density on a vibrational level when you're wearing crystals or you're wearing any particular jewelry which has a charge to it. So that will also allow for higher vibrational field of energy in the sense of going to the next frequency. So you do drop that density and travel. I like to say drop the density and just travel light. You really don't need extra baggage and extra energetics. We have enough, as I lose my voice, we have enough going on here on the timeline without having to, have extra baggage. There's too much density here. So get yourselves light. Try to do that as best you can. I know it's challenging, and especially in this day and age with the timeline the way it is. But find yourself a space where you can actually go into your own field of energy in harmonics with the cosmos and just let that energetic signature, set in your field so that you're able to reassess your own multidimensional fields and kind of align them better to the harmonics of the cosmos. That's just my 2 cents. But it will definitely serve you well. And letting go of the emotional debris and the mental debris and all this stuff that's building up with people lately, I think the crystals come to mind because they help amplify your own field and they help secure your own electromagnetic field aura and four-body system. So I think it would be helpful for people to kind of dive into that if you're guided to. Once again, this is just if you're attracted to this particular subject. The dream time in crystals is also very, very powerful. So you have the dream where you want to program your dreams more. You can do that by intent, obviously. Before you go to bed at night, you can set the intent to remember your dreams or even be more lucid in the experience. I've always mentioned to people that you want to be lucid in your dream time. You want to be able to change the formula. You want to be able to change the scenery. And when you're in the dream time, if you see something you don't like in there, move it, change it. If it bothers you, or if it's some kind of I don't want to say nightmare, but the idea behind that is it's something there, try to control it on a lucid scale and neutralize it or change the scenery so that you have control over the dream time. That's really what it is about insofar as mastering consciousness and understanding your capabilities. Once you become aware as a lucid dreamer, then you're understanding how reality works and the illusion of how the constructs work and how you can function from day to day by manifesting at will in reality. So this is something worth a good practice run. Setting the intent before you go to bed is my suggestion once again, and making sure that your fields are clear, maybe a short meditation or some breathing exercises. I'm a real firm believer in Qigong exercises or Tai Chi or anything with prana, where you're breathing in universal life force energy through the heart chakra preferably, Also deep breaths. So if you notice a lot, people breathe kind of shallow these days. Well, now they have the illusion and all this other stuff going on with this. Don't get me started with the virus thing, but the whole idea behind that is oxygen, right? Prana, universal life force energy. It's very, very important that we're breathing properly. So a good time to do that would be in the morning, taking really deep breaths, maybe 10 deep breaths, breathing in universal life force energy, exhaling, decompressing, and doing that to reset your field in the morning and also at night is my suggestion. And that would be for, obviously, if you're just wanting to just reset and create some more balance in your life. The harmonization aspect when you're in dream time would be if you're using a crystal while you want to project yourself, say astral projection or dream time, you want to use an amethyst, in my opinion, or something where you can transmute alchemically any vibrations that are not in harmonization with you. There's also you might want to use something more grounding too, depending on your field. If you're one of those who tends to get really out there and very, very expanded and has a hard time anchoring back in, then something like hematite might be helpful for you, something to anchor and ground you in. I still say shungite's a good one, although it's not a crystal, but it's very good at grounding. It's also neutralizing and kind of attuning your field properly so that if there's any dirty electricity, it definitely neutralizes and at least attenuates the field so that you're not getting too much of that kind of toxicity in your energetic signature. So those are things you can look at when you're resting at night or what you want to wear. Some people don't want to wear any jewelry at all when they're sleeping, and I understand that. So, just follow your intuition, but you can also wear, or not even wear, but you can have like crystal clusters by your bed. So amethyst comes to mind, the amethyst clusters, or even rose quartz for love and healing and anything like that you want to use for more emotional balance. I don't know if I heard anything in the background or not. I think we're okay. Just let me know because I'm going fast. But these are the things that come to mind for the heart center, and so far as heart chakra, emotional release, or love. And the rose quartz is really, really good for that. It's really good for just holding the field of energy for love, universal love, unconditional love. I think right now a lot of people aren't utilizing their heart chakra that much because there's a lot of stress, just plain stress going on. So you take those heart chakras and you breathe in the light to the center, unifying the field, obviously, through meditation. But the crystals themselves, the rose quartz, in my opinion, would be one that I think would be very beneficial to people if you're wanting to at least balance the heart center a little bit more and keep it more in harmony with upper dimensional grid works versus what's here. So that's something I look at. And obviously, when you're working in the field with crystals, you want to make sure that they're purified to some degree. So sometimes when you purchase a crystal at the store, you may not need to do anything to it. It might just have such a clear vibration that it will change your field immediately and kind of attune you to higher dimensional fields with a lot of peace. So you don't really need to change that at all. And that usually has a lot to do, with the origins of where it comes from, also how it's been respected in the store. All these things correlate insofar as the atmospheric conditions. So sometimes you don't really need to clear a crystal when you purchase one. If you are feeling like you need to clear the crystal, maybe it just has some gunk on it, then the sea salt and burying it in sea salt, which I suggest, I usually suggest maybe 1 to 3 days, is a good time to do that and just kind of purify. And then, of course, pour some water in there and then let it charge up with the sunlight. It's great to do that around the lunar cycles if you can, at least when you're clearing and detoxifying. And then, of course, when you want to charge something up, you want to use the solar energies and putting the crystal out with the sun where it can absorb the light and the fields of energy, and it gets really, really charged, and it feels really good. So those are little tidbits of information I hope can help you insofar as just trying to hone in on what you can do to better yourselves if you're working with the crystals. And I know there are a lot of healers out there who do work with the crystals. I think sometimes people forget because you've got all kinds of things going on, and sometimes people get so busy they may forget to clear their crystals, or they might forget to maybe put them in sunlight to let them recharge, because crystals need a break too, is my point, and no pun intended. But the crystals do need a break. They need to recharge and purify and definitely change a little bit. And I'm going to grab some water for just a second here. We have some fire stuff going on. Smoke's kind of here and there, so just a heads up if I lose my voice for a second. My apologies, but we'll keep rolling here, and all will be well. All right, so the healing modalities and the layout for healing, I want to mention that as well. I know I was talking about charging your crystals and taking care of the crystals when they break, et cetera, or the fact that they do need to break themselves. Some people have a really intense vibration. So if your vibration is really, really intense, or you're going through a lot on a crisis level, then you probably don't want to wear a lot of crystals, because you're going to wind up fracturing the crystal. It's going to break. It's going to fall off your body. You're going to find out the necklace will break or something will happen. There's no such thing as coincidence, in my opinion, and this goes for other necklaces too. If your body's not in harmony with what you're wearing, you'll find out that all of a sudden these necklaces are going to disappear, or the crystals might break. So once again, pay attention to these things because you can certainly run into some problems in a sense of out of harmonization, and it's also a sign that your body needs more healing. So take some time to look at that and, balance your energy field. And if it feels like you're losing crystals too fast, then something needs to be more organically correct with the bioelectric field in your aura. And then you can reach out and do more crystal work, in my opinion, anyways, because it seems like there's something off balance if you're breaking crystals all the time. I do know people that do that a lot. I know that when I was younger, a rutilated quartz, I could not wear at all because it's such a conductor that I had a really hard time just because I was always breaking it energetically. My field was really charged. And at that time, I wasn't controlling it a whole lot. So it does happen. Just some extra information for anybody out there who might have that problem with crystals because I know I do. At least I did, not now, but I did in the past. So you're not the only one if you find yourself doing that. And, of course, for the necklaces breaking and this and that. So the shungite, once again, it's good for purifying properties insofar as purifying the environment and purifying your water. So I like to bring shungite up just because it's a good one to work with quartz or other crystals that you're utilizing. It's something that, in my opinion, would be very beneficial to a lot of people right now, especially with dirty electricity. So if you're not familiar with shungite, get to know shungite. It's a nice complement to crystals in general and quartz. And there's cosmicreality.net. I believe you can access that website. It's really, really good. Nancy Hopkins does a fabulous job with shungite and information pertaining to shungite. And you can definitely go in there and check out all her merchandise. And shameless plug, but I've worked with her before, and she's got some beautiful shungite, really good quality stuff. So from Russia. Okay, so another thing you can do with crystals, which I find really interesting, is the clear quartz. You can use that for gem elixirs. I don't know if you're familiar with gem elixirs or not. Back in the old days, they had some fabulous books, and I know Barbara can probably relate to some of these. Or I can, but the gem elixirs were really, really cool. Back in the day, I used to take a lot of gem elixirs, and I can tell you that immediately you feel it shift in your vibration as soon as you start to utilize the elixirs themselves. And what it is the energetic signature, the vibration of the crystal itself is transferred in from the water. You're taking the crystal from itself is coming in and transmitting in the water, but amplifying and actually changing the alchemical structure of the water to some degree with the vibrational signature of the crystal itself. It's really powerful. And once you start utilizing that and taking the gem elixirs, you'll find that your vibrational field will shift internally quite quickly. And those are really, really good to use. I don't know how many people are actually working with that right now, but the gem elixirs and that type of vibrational healing is really good. As a matter of fact, there's the book Gem Elixirs and Vibrational Healing, which is by Garudis, if I'm not mistaken. And if you can find it, you're very lucky because I bought those, back in the old days. But I think they should probably have them around. Fabulous, fabulous books. They're the best things and the best information you'll ever get when it comes to crystals and gemstones. And I feel intuitively, for whatever reason, it just seems like the crystals and the crystalline structure is a big deal right now. And I think it's because we're in this space of linear implosion, So for me, amplification of the field of higher consciousness, but working with things that actually balance that in multidimensional space like crystals and such, I think would be very, very helpful for everybody. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to put this together tonight. And like I said, it's really nice to be able to be here and just kind of roll for a couple hours instead of interviewing anybody because I can just get the data out and then you can access it later and go through it. And if it helps you, that's great. And if you have any questions, you can, send them over in chat and you can certainly address them on air. So don't be shy if you feel like you need to have a question answered. I think I mentioned the rose quartz earlier. So we got into the rose quartz a bit about the heart center and the heart chakra and how that affects people on an emotional level. So once again, if you have emotional turmoil going on, the rose quartz is very, very helpful for you. Something that I think that might balance your field quite a bit. Or trauma. Anytime you have some kind of trauma going on in your life, relationship issues, divorces, separations, loss of loved ones, anything like that, rose quartz is very, very healing and can be very beneficial to you on that level. You can get a medicine pouch, for example, if you don't want to wear the jewelry, or put it in a little pouch with some sage and some, special herbs and such, and you can bring it with you. And hang on for a second. Just don't want to lose my voice for y'all, so we'll keep going. Don't worry here. So anyways, but once again, the rose quartz is something that I like to see insofar as using it for more healing modalities connected to emotional issues. That's very, very balancing. I had a gal one time that went through some really weird anxiety attacks. She was just having anxiety all the time. And she had a lot of what we call, it wasn't necessarily a psychic attack, but for her, it seemed that way. It was just complete anxiety, which would speed her heart rate up and make her go pale, and her blood pressure would drop. And just out of nowhere. And so one day, intuitively speaking, and I worked in corporate at the time. They used to call me the corporate witch, but this was a long time ago, past life. You know, it's funny because she was going through this issue, and her little cubicle was near mine. So I got up, and I had one of these. I always had crystals with me at my desk, and I gave her one of my rose quartz, and I just held it. You know, I told her, you just hang on to this. And I'd say within like maybe 40 seconds to a couple minutes, she was fine. And then she got through that episode, and then she gave it back to me, and she said, "Thank you so much. This completely helped me." So whether it's psychological or it's really the energetic signature, I think it's a combination of both. Holding something but projecting your energy, whatever's going on with your body that it can't hold the field, it can't hold that trauma, let it channel through and go into something else is my point. And I think that's what she did. She projected all that and went right into that crystal, and it was able to absorb it to some degree, and she was better. She felt better emotionally. She was more balanced, and she didn't have the anxiety anymore. What I did notice about the crystal afterwards was that it was very sticky. It had this residue on it energetically, and that was all her. It was all detox, right? Well, you just clear them after that when you have an issue like that. And I'm using that as an example because you might find if you're working on these things with yourself or other people, then you definitely might notice something like that where they need to clear those crystals as soon as you're doing healing work on somebody. So just a heads up on that. Another thing, too, people forget the children around. You know, the children need, in my opinion, I think crystals are great for kids. And I would encourage you to have crystals around them in their rooms, maybe some, I don't know, rose quartz and amethyst and all kinds of cool stuff. Most children love crystals, and I find that they are very healing. So even if they're not working with them energetically, like hands-on all the time, the field of energy will be there for them. So that's something to look at as well, because they really do absorb and transmit quite a bit of information and also radiate a lot of energetics that can heal and assist in a more of a balanced life. So this is all about crystals right here in this little parallel I'm talking about right now. All right. So where else do I want to go with this? Okay. So looking at that, that was my little tangent of stories here, but just want to bring that into focus for a second to show you the idea behind how this helps people and what you can do if you're having an anxiety attack of any kind like that. Also, you want to, if you are finding yourself hyperventilating or say you're going through stress, breathing is a huge deal. So you've got to get the breathing back to normal. And you do that through whether it's meditation, qigong. Toning is a really good thing, too. So if you find yourself getting into stress, projection of sound is a really big deal. And I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. And if you find yourself feeling like you're overloaded, energetically speaking, find a way to channel the energy. Bottom line, whether you're working out, training, toning, singing, something where you're moving the field, you're moving the energy, but that's going to help you get through whatever's going on. The only reason I'm bringing up anxiety right now is because it seems like just from my own assessment on people lately, they've been going through a lot of trauma, and they're getting hit subconsciously to a point where it's coming through their field, and they need some kind of balance. So this is something you can look at for more balance in your life. Obviously, meditation or whatever prayer you do will definitely help you, but this is something, I think the movement is a big deal because the body needs to run the energy. It needs to run the frequencies that it's responding to, and that's one way to do it. Citrine is a real good one, too, if you're dealing with any type of mental issues or need more mental focus or maybe even relieving of depression of some kind. That's a real one to work with insofar as just letting go of things on that scale and kind of resetting the mental body. So something to look at when you want more focus in your life. Some citrine might help you. That's something that I would recommend for anybody who's going through any type of depression or needs to reset their mental focus, right? The emeralds and the healings, the malachites, the greens, obviously connect to the healing rays of a lot of different fields of energy. But for those are definitely for healing in a sense of healing with the heart center and also stabilizing on a more emotional level as well. You can use those in harmony with the rose quartz, and they work very well. At least the malachite does. I have noticed that malachite tends to break quite a bit with certain people. So you have to be in tune to the field. So once again, this is why I mentioned the store, going into a crystal store and observing what sings to you, what resonates with you, what are you honing in on? Because some crystals will not have the same harmonization with your field. And that might not be anything personal. It's just about your own multidimensional field and how you vibrate. So don't take it personally on that level, but pay attention to what you're looking at energetically speaking and what rings to you, because that is a really big deal when you're working with any type of a crystal. And that goes for anything else, by the way. It's just your psychic radar and what you're picking up on. You've got the onyx, and obsidian types, which are always connected to like lower chakra, insofar as reinforcing the lower chakras, especially if you're dealing with any type of trauma to the chakra centers, the lower chakras, emotional, any kind of trauma or imprinting going on, or heavy karmic patterns. That's really good to work with insofar as psychic protection and more enforcement, and also grounding. So that's something to look at when you're dealing with removal of certain things that are just plain traumatic and maybe even toxic to the system. Also very grounding. Those are very, very good to work with in grounding. They're also very powerful when it comes down to psychic protection and scrying. So if you're really interested in doing scrying work and you want to hone in on your own visuals and your third eye activation, obsidian, in my opinion, is really good. And in the old days, they used to have the obsidian crystal balls. I think they still do. And those are really nice. You know, it's funny because I used to have all kinds of crystal balls. When I was younger, I started off with these at a young age. You know, obviously it never goes away. But people would always say, oh, they're nice conversation pieces. And yeah, they can be. But, you know, it's like, well, do you ever see anything in them? Well, the whole idea behind it is that you are the seer and that you really don't need the crystal ball per se. But it is something you can work with energetically, you can psychically attune to, and you can actually see, just like when you're scrying and creating a black mirror, you can actually see in multiple world realities. What it does is it teaches you how to see on a remote viewing level, because what you're doing is you're training your mind and your consciousness and your psychic radar to attune into a field of perception to open up that door so you can actually communicate and see and get all kinds of information and data streams of different things going on timelines, which is equivalent to remote viewing on many, many scales. So something I would look at in a sense of if you're interested in doing that sort of thing, that's where the obsidian comes in with more grounding and psychic protection. Whenever you're doing any kind of work, you want to make sure that you're always protecting yourself and not leaving yourself too open for entanglement issues. And the reason I say entanglement issues is because if you dial into something and it's like, oh, I'm just going into anything, you know, it's going to dial everybody. It's like going into a cemetery and just, knocking on everybody's coughing, and you get a response from everyone. You know what I'm saying? You have to hone in on what you really want to communicate with. So do be careful with those things. You can get an overload and a little bit like Grand Central Station. So you want to make sure that you're not overdoing it when you go down to these corridors when you're looking in through these types of crystal ball type perception. I call it perception in a sense because you're perceiving a reality through the frequency of what you're observing through your third eye. So it's definitely pretty intense. And I would say if you're looking into doing something like that, you can also make the black mirrors. You know, you can do those yourself with ink or such. You know, if you really want to get involved in that. Most of the time, what I've noticed that right now on this timeline, because we're going through so much technological success to some degree, but also a misuse of technology, there's a lot of interference patterns and a lot of different things happening multidimensionally. You also have the ability to be able to just do that, like I said, without anything around you. So I don't think you actually need the crystal balls or the crystals. Like I said, they amplify, they transmit, they receive data. They can do an awful lot for you, but you are the device. And never forget that. What I'm suggesting for everybody, this particular type of format I have right now tonight, is just letting you know that you have other resources in case you get overloaded. And I think it's important to remind yourself of that. They were put here on this illusion of a world you call Earth for a very long time for a reason. But just like copper, you know, copper is great for conducting and healing and arthritis and circulation. There's so many things you can do with copper. And I don't know, most people have the wristbands, or some people do. I know a lot of people back in the day used to wear the copper bands. And just for circulation and health and well-being, on various levels, and that was very beneficial for them. So all of these wonderful things you can do, whether it's a crystal or it's a metal of some kind, you can certainly utilize and look around you and see which your body is resonating with. You know, what is it needs, actually. The silver is always good, too. I'm kind of diving into some metals here real quick. The silver, obviously for psychic protection, in my opinion, divine feminine for sure. Lunar consciousness. So you've got, I said that right. Lunar consciousness. So you've got the priestess work insofar as all the things that happen with silver. So if you're into the goddess work, if you do any type of work around lunar activity and ritual work, then obviously silver is very, very powerful for that, and amplification and protection. And I strongly suggest that you work with the silver. It's a very, very good conductor in its own. The gold is very, very powerful, obviously, with the Godhead and the monoatomic gold. And I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of different types of healing mechanisms and also modalities associated with gold themselves. You've got the attunement to divine source and the higher self and the Godhead, which is just beautiful. So working with these particular metals or working with particular jewelry is very significant insofar as what you're needing. What is the body telling you it needs? I mean, what kind of component does it need? The Godhead and the gold is more male dominant, in my opinion, and the silver is more feminine. So you've got two things working there. So if you feel like you need more feminine energetics associated, more divine feminine, then I would go with the silver. If you feel like you need more of the divine Godhead, then I would go with the gold. So, and this goes for color insofar as decor. How does your house look? What are you what are you working with? What are you wearing? What kind of clothes do you wear with that? What colors are you attracted to, right? It has a lot to do with this because it's all about the frequency, and it's about the significance associated. How does that feel to your field of energy? What is it you're trying to bring through? And of course, all of these different types of things have a different kind of imprint, a psychic imprint, energetic signature to them. So it's all very interesting when you think about it. I don't think there's a coincidence when people pick things. I think that there's always something behind it. And, it's kind of interesting to observe when you're just kind of watching society and see what they're drawn to, insofar as color or, just different things like the turquoise. And, I can go on and on with that. We'll get into that later. But it is very interesting to watch. You've got crystal skulls, too. This is a real big deal right now. Now, a lot of people are into the crystal skulls, and I think they're fascinating. I look at the traditional ancient crystal skulls, and obviously very, very powerful in a sense of transmission of data. Once again, you're dealing with transmission of frequency because it's just like a computer. You're transmitting and receiving data. So the crystal skulls themselves are transmitting data via telepathy through consciousness. So it's a streaming of information back and forth and back and forth. And if you're very attuned to that, you can receive a data stream of information, synthetic. I would call it synthetic telepathy because I've been through that program. But this is more about natural telepathy and more about an articulate way of communicating through consciousness and streaming consciousness. And, of course, crystals like the computers, they store everything. They store technology and information. And depending on the timeline of where that crystal was, it's going to have the database of where it's been and also the people, the beings, the life forms around it. This is why they're so powerful, because you've got so much data in there from previous groups and of collectives of beings. That's a very, very intense thing. And if you're able to access that information, then you can get an awful lot of information pertaining to more than an Akashic record, in my opinion, if you've got the real crystal skulls. I know they're making a lot of replications of these things, and that's all nice, and you can program those, but the bottom line is if they're not the traditional, if they're not the original type crystal skulls that they mentioned back in the old days, then you probably wouldn't have that kind of database and signature associated, but you'll know. There's definitely a psychic signature or template associated with these skulls, no doubt about it. Mediums go into trance when they walk into the room, and you go in there, and usually some people just go right into a different field of perception and immediately start getting information. So depending on how you're attuned to the different crystals, you'll definitely feel that. And that goes for even just older crystals, It doesn't have to be a crystal skull, but that's definitely something that I look at with this particular one. The communication with the cosmic ancestors is also connected to those crystal skulls in a sense of how it's accessible, in a sense of how they've imprinted things. So you are able to access the ancient ones, in my opinion, if you're able to access the crystal skulls. And you don't need a crystal skull, obviously, to access this, really. But in a sense, what that's doing is presenting its own database for you. But you do have the full Akashic access, is my point. So, in other words, you don't have to go run around and find a crystal skull because the chances of you finding one of these real powerful crystal skulls is hard. I know they do have some out there. But in my opinion, you can access the full Akashic with that same database just by projection and asking and being able to be receptive enough to attune to the right field of energy. So hopefully that's not too complicated for you. What I'm trying to tell you is that you really don't need all these things, but they're here. And while they're here, if you have access to them or if you have a way to communicate with them, then look into it. And if you're curious, in a sense of getting more answers and things beyond the linear world, if you want more information, dive into that. You can get this kind of information through a tree. And you can literally go in and hone in on the field of nature, and you'll get information from nature. Right? Everything is alive in consciousness, and it's all connected. It's a big web of information, and I'm not talking the internet. So it's really fascinating when you start opening up these corridors and start, accessing the stream of consciousness in these fields. You'll find a lot of data there. So it's really, really nice. And I wanted to bring up the crystal skulls because I've always loved skulls in general. I'm kind of one of those, and I love skulls, whether they're crystal or, There are protections and shields. I know a lot of people get spooked with skulls, but they are very, very shielding, and they also are connecting to our ancient ancestors on a lot of levels. So they're very much protective on many, many levels. One thing to look at is what's in your head, and I always ask people this because you've got to make sure that you're clear. You have to have your hemispheres balanced as you're trying to project or transmit or communicate with something else. You want to make sure that you don't have any boogies that are sitting there second-guessing what you're trying to communicate. That's a real big deal. So are you answering on behalf of the crystal skull, for example, you wish to receive information from? Are you organically connecting into the stream of consciousness? You have to know the difference, and there is a difference because some people will just give themselves the answer. It's like there's an aspect of them that just tells them what to say, But that's not what you need to listen to. You need to listen to what's coming in and something outside of yourself. And that's why I always ask people, look at your own mind, look at what you're creating, and make sure that you're not answering for yourself when you're accessing or doing a reading or doing anything that's honing in on something else where you're trying to achieve a data stream of information, because you're going to get tricked. And I try to tell certain readers this, they don't want to hear it. But I'll tell you, it does happen, and people have to be very, very careful of the mind. The mind is a very interesting place and multifaceted and multi-layered. So look at that when you're, accessing information or transmitting and receiving. Be very clear about what you're suggesting to the universe, what you're accessing, and make no mistake about what you're wanting, because the universe does accommodate your picture of reality. And if it's distorted to begin with, then you're going to get a strange distortion in the field when you're manifesting it here. And people do that a lot. They'll say, well, I don't know what happened. I put this out here, but it came back this way. Well, it's kind of like, what did you put in the replicator, and what were you thinking at the time? Because it comes out very different. It's like a replicator. It's holographic to some degree. So it is kind of like that. So thoughts are very powerful. Just use them with wisdom and enlightenment. We all get fierce and we all get annoyed sometimes, but just channel it appropriately is what I've always told people. I'm very fierce. I'm very fiery. If anybody knows me, they know how fiery I can be, believe me. But I do channel it and I direct it the right way. So I think that's really important that people pay attention to what they're putting out in the ethers. So the gem elixirs, once again, infusions you can use infusions, which are really nice as misters, So something that I look at also, if you're wanting to just kind of put some kind of a vibration or change the vibration in your living space with an infusion, you can use the misters, which, just put some crystals in there and, blessing the water, and you can actually make your own misters. It's just really, really cool. So I hope this is helping you, and hang up for a second while I take another sip of water. Yeah, I'm used to breaks on my other shows, so this is okay. I just keep rambling on, and just digest what you can, and when I need to take a break or a sip of water for a second, just bear with me while I mute, and we're good. Okay? So anyway, the gem water is really, really cool. So I encourage you, if you're interested in any of this, if you're interested in how to make gem elixirs or the gem water, I think actually there is a book on gem water, if I'm not mistaken, but I would try to get Gem Elixirs and Vibrational Healing by Garudas if you can. If you can get your hands on that, it might be a little bit pricey. I don't know. I'm sure they can find it on Amazon, but it's well worth it. It's well worth the investment, and they can certainly walk you through as far as how to really make these. You don't want to obviously have pieces of crystal in your water while you're drinking or anything like that. You don't want any of that. And actually nowadays I think they even have a particular type of device you can buy that's more like a filter where you can put the crystals in, and then you can create it filters through the crystals so that you're not ingesting any particles or anything like that, which is obviously what you don't want to ingest anything like that. So definitely look into that and be very, very, just make sure that you're, I don't want to say leery, or just make sure that you're paying attention to the types of products you're getting, because some people are putting out products out there that I don't think are very good. Just a heads up. So start with the books and then go from there, is my opinion, my 2 cents on that. Which are literally, like I said, the crystals just transfer the energy and the vibration of the crystal into the water, and then you're absorbing that through your system. A different way to do it, but it's a lot faster. It's kind of like taking liquid vitamin C, or basically it's an IV of vitamin C, right? It's a little bit different than just taking some other format or formula. So something that I look at there. Okay, so anyways, so we're pretty good with the time. Okay, we're good. All right, so the color therapy thing is really interesting, because I'm talking about gems, and I'm talking about crystals and frequencies and all these different things, but the color therapy goes right hand in hand once again. So you're looking at things that connect in with crystals and how the color affects your on a psychological scale, energetically speaking. And once again, a reminder of the pink, how that's about love and healing for self and relationships, which I think is really healthy in a sense of if you're really looking for some balance. The gold in there, the gold and the green, like I mentioned earlier, I would definitely utilize in the sense of amplification for the heart center. So if you're doing a crystal layout, if you're one of those who likes to do crystal layouts for healing, then I would work with, for example, if you have a client, I would definitely work with the golds and the greens and the pinks for the heart chakra if they need help with that area, because those are really good for healing, for balance, for divine Godhead, but also just love and a real sense of wellness with the higher self connected into the heart center. So that's just my own 2 cents on that. The blues are really nice insofar as cooling and frequency oriented for psychic protection with your throat chakra, communication, obviously stimulating inner peace and tranquility. So if you find yourself in a very hyper world all the time, then the blues are really helpful insofar as calming, and it's just creating more inner peace and serenity. Obviously the water comes to mind insofar as the oceans and the breeze and just being around things that are very peaceful and tranquil. Blue is definitely part of that. and a very, very peaceful field of energy and a very enlightening field as well. So something to work with the throat center too. Speaking your truth, speaking communication through the throat energetic and not getting stuck. So if you have a problem with communication in any form, then the blue would be something that I would look at. So you look at the colors, color therapy, frequency, but also blue in correlation, aquamarine comes to mind, or all these beautiful things. Lapis lazuli I love, but it's more, I associate it more with the third eye, but I still love it. And it's, it's up to you insofar as what you feel energetically, but these are just some tools that I'm throwing at you tonight. Okay. You've got the yellows, which I think are interesting insofar as for mental focus, like I was talking about the citrine and such, relief of depression or anything that's kind of holding you a little bit, energetically speaking, providing more clarity, overall kind of a cheery and well-being vibration. So the yellow is really good for lifting you up, okay, putting you in another space that you're not feeling like you're being pulled down by a gravity well. I like the yellow because it's just, you can't really go wrong with that in the sense of, even in a room where you're painting like maybe a kitchen bright yellow or something, not that I'm encouraging people, but I'm just saying bright yellow, it really does raise the vibration in a sense of opening your mind and creating more mental clarity and mental focus. So it's something that I look at insofar as a more of a happier feel and changing and moving that energetic that was stuck for the mental body. So if there's any debris in there, I think that yellow helps quite a bit. So that's something to look at. For colors, and this is why I always, when I look at people, I don't judge them, I'm assessing them, right? I'm observing them, but I find it interesting to see what they're drawn to color-wise because I think it does affect them psychologically. If you're always wearing stuff that's just dark, dark, dark all the time, and I'm the worst culprit for that because I wear too much black. But I have to say, there's a reason I wear a lot of black, but in the summertime I like bright colors too, and when I lived on Maui, I loved wearing all these bright colors, and it really does change your field. It really does change your vibration. If you're feeling kind of low or if you're feeling kind of gunked up, change the vibration, change the field, whether it's crystals, or painting a different room, a different color, change the color, change the vibration, and everything moves. The orange is really nice because that puts emphasis on cleansing and sanitizing the four-body system. So you've got that there in a sense that it can be used when dealing with critical healing also. So it's really a powerful ray of energetics and frequency that's associated with emergency care, fast healing, but also enlightenment. So orange puts emphasis on the divine too, the divine God and goddess, the sacred wellspring, and assists in preparing for the spirit for higher multidimensional realms. So it's a very, very powerful frequency to work with when it's the right color. The orange I'm talking about, the orange is more of like the sun, in the autumn sky. It's a real powerful radiating light that has a lot of healing energetics to it. Excuse me, and I would say that's something to work with when you're in need, if you're in need of like real quick healing or response or something where it's urgent. I would work with the orange. It's also good for cutting cords with people that have been pulling on your field too. Believe it or not, it's really good for that. So you can utilize that when there's something there that's corded in or tied into you energetically. The orange seems to be able to disconnect some of that stuff. And I think that's part of the cleansing aspect and sanitization that it has when it comes down to your four-body system. You've got the reds in there too, and the reds put emphasis on the vital life force energy. So you've got your life force in general is always, that passion, energy, sexuality, movement. Red's the simulator, and it's good for energizing the atmosphere, obviously, and really just ramping things up in a good way, hopefully. Red can also be very, very intense, so you have to be really careful with that. But using red on walls, like, if you look into, like, say, for example, Chinese, consider red a very lucky color, and it is on a lot of different levels for them. So it's how you perceive, once again, but it's also how you're using it. Are you using it more with feng shui? Are you using it more connected to healing ray, insofar as what you need for your lower chakra system? So all these things correlate and connect in. Red is very, very powerful and very intense, so I don't recommend really using it a lot on walls, per se, unless you're really just one of those people who loves red. But if you're working with feng shui, for example, like I said with the Chinese, then it would probably benefit you on that level if you're working it and doing it in the right balance. That's my 2 cents on that one. I don't see a lot of people with red, but I will tell you, certain people can't wear red, and a lot of fire signs, if you're a fire sign, sometimes they're drawn to red, especially Aries. Be careful with that because it really just puts you out on another orbit. It will amplify your frequency a lot, so be careful with the reds and how you utilize them and how you're working with those, because usually if you wear red, you're a target. You just become a target, energetically speaking. And that goes for cars, too. And it's funny, back in the old days, and I'm kind of digressing for a second here, but cars, bright yellow cars, bright red cars, law enforcement will tell you this. If you have a bright sports car like that, you are just, they just hone in right on the red, right, the color. So just pay attention to those things when you're out there. What are you looking for? What are you trying to attract? That's my point. and what colors are you utilizing to attract that? And it can be negative attention sometimes versus positive. So something we work with when I'm looking at the timelines and how people use these colors, and maybe even subconsciously. But when I see red, it's usually for vital life force energy and productivity and movement. So that's how I work with the color, the frequency of red. You're working with a white.
Solaris.
Uh-huh.
Do the colors, do they also relate also to the chakras? And
they do relate to the chakras.
Yeah, and so if you're wearing, I have found that the colors that I avoid are the chakras that need the most energy.
Oh, very interesting. Wow. That's a great point you make. And yes, they do correlate to the chakra system. Mm-hmm.
And the chakras, the colors that I just love to surround myself with are those areas where I'm the most talented and gifted.
Very true. Very, very true. I can relate. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, quite honestly. Maybe you intuitively know what you need, and you're putting the energetic and the color and the frequency associated with the right center, the right chakra center. Because when I look at the red and the orange and the lower chakra systems and the colors associated, then, it depends on the person and if they need it for healing or other things. But I think you have a point, though. If you want to just use something that amplifies your gifts and work with the higher frequencies, and you want to work with the more violets and the blues and the golds and the pinks and the greens, in my opinion, anyway. So, yeah, it's a great point you make.
No, it's just, it's the color is so important. I don't think people understand how much it affects them and their life. And not only that, but
Agreed.
But what they surround themselves with. I'm one to, surround myself with vibrant colors all over the place, which drives some people crazy, especially in my house, because my son keeps saying, "You'll never sell this if you don't paint it all white," and I don't really care. So, but it's those colors. I surround myself with the colors that activate certain aspects of me. I have a lot of. I don't wear yellow, but I know yellow will help me to intellectually. It stimulates me intellectually and creatively. And, I think if people pay more attention to the colors they wear and the colors they surround themselves with, it's a way of reading themselves and understanding, where their power is and what they need to, kind of boost up a little bit.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I think a lot of people right now are honing in more on the darker colors. Unfortunately, it's almost like everybody's mourning. And like I said, I can be the worst culprit when it comes to wearing dark colors, but I also know when to shift gears and say, I've got to shake this off, I've got to switch. And I think this is another thing we were talking about, the environment you have is it's your spiritual sanctuary, so you want to have it on a high vibrational field. And the colors you describe in the upper chakra system, that's high vibration, right? Where you have the lower vibrational field, not that it's super low with the lower chakra system, but it's not at the higher frequencies of enlightenment. Once you get to the Godhead, you're going with explosive colors and things that are very, very multifaceted insofar as just almost ethereal, in the way they present themselves. So, with your expansion in consciousness, it doesn't surprise me that you have an environment like that at all. And I wouldn't want you to have a dark and gloomy house. That's not your vibration. That's not what you are inside. Or it just doesn't, that's just my 2 cents. But you know what I mean? You radiate the multiverse. So why do you want something that's going to dim you?
Well, and so that's I tell people usually if they're depressed and stuff like that to go more toward the jewel tones and get the vibrancy to help shake them out of whatever dismal place they are at the moment in time.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And I also think that changing your walls and painting your house really does make a difference in vibration. Taking care of your own garden, whether it's internal or external, absolutely. And if you have walls that are just white and boring, if you feel like you want to add some color, do it, because you're changing the whole vibration of your whole room, your house, your kitchen, wherever you're doing it. And the whole energetic changes. I mean, my goodness, you've seen that happen, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's really powerful.
All the time.
Hmm?
And
that's why,
it's
funny when people...
It goes into even the color ink you use. I mean, you can take this to the extreme, and it does say something.
I agree. Yeah, I used to write in blues, really like turquoise blue and purple, but it used to bother people, so I went to black. I used to love writing in like the real, the purple and all the really nice, pretty colors.
Oh yeah.
So.
And the other thing is I recently I met a lady, and she always she always wrote in pencil. She didn't want to use ink, and it was sort of like she never could commit to anything, so she wrote in pencil so she could erase it, and that's how her life was.
Wow, interesting. That's very interesting. I've never heard of that before. That tells you a lot, though, doesn't it? So you're able to analyze that pretty well.
Well, I think so much of us, everybody wants to become aware and enlightened and everything else, and part of that process is being observant. Yeah. And the more observant you become, the more you learn about yourself and your environment.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's also interesting, in my opinion, you're right. But you shadow yourself, too. People don't like that word. Oh, shadowing yourself. It sounds but it's true. You check your behavior. You do a check on yourself, just like you would when you're putting your makeup on and you wear makeup. But, doing a check, see what's going on. What are you attracted to? What's the energetic going on in your house and everything. That's why I said the crystals are a really big deal, because sometimes they'll pick you. And maybe people need that in their lives. They need certain frequencies, and the crystals are actually honing in on them and sending them a kind of a signal to, pick it up and bring it home with them and start working with sound and frequency through the crystal, because they are singing. They're working in a different field of energy, but it's a frequency.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's funny. Sometimes you read in books what different crystals relate to, and certainly a lot of the information you gave before is absolutely true. But sometimes a stone or a gemstone, but a stone can talk to you, can have the ability to touch you in a way that brings you peace and tranquility. Mm-hmm. So
yep.
Don't think it has to. While you're absolutely right in the with the generalities you gave, absolutely 100% true. But every now and then. There will be something that just doesn't fit into the book, but if it works for you, then it's perfect.
Yes, I agree. Right down to even stones at the beach, or seashells, or little things like that too, where people hone in on certain things. I don't know about you, but I'll bet you we might have had this conversation. But I loved rocks when I was little, and I used to always pick up rocks wherever I went. For whatever reason, I always wanted to have rocks, and that's the whole thing with the frequency, always hanging on to an energetic or being attracted to something. Whether it doesn't have to be a crystal, but it's something about the vibration that was definitely needed, or at the time, at least it felt like it was. Oh yeah, no,
I've always collected rocks.
Mhm.
Drove my parents mad every time we moved, but I love them.
Yeah, fossils
and
too.
When I moved when I moved this last time, I had to kind of split them up into all sorts of different containers so I didn't break somebody's back with the heaviness of things.
I'm glad you brought them with you.
Oh, gosh, yeah. At one point, one of the men said, listen, one of the men said, geez, this feels like you've got rocks in it. And I just looked at him and said, oh, don't be ridiculous. Who would be crazy enough to take rocks with them? And it was full of rocks.
Oh, that's hysterical. Oh, that's funny. Mystery box.
Yes.
You have to label it for them so they won't, they wouldn't pick it up if they saw it rocks probably. But hey, it's a good workout nonetheless.
Oh yeah. Well, I had crystal label. The box was labeled with crystal, and it was crystals, not crystal. They thought it was fragile because I said crystal on it, so they were very careful with
that's
it.
Good. Well,
Definitely.
That's good. Well, they make the journey with you, That's so nice. I had a Lemurian crystal. I still have it, and I bought this a long time ago. I mean, this thing was just singing to me years and years and years ago, and it took trips back and forth from Maui. Every time I went back from Maui to the mainland, I'd pack my Lemurian crystal, and I'd bring it, and it's big. And I was like, I don't know how it survived, but thank goodness it did, and it's in great shape. And it has lithium in it. You can see the lithium in it. It's fascinating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very healing, very powerful. I'll send you a picture. Beautiful crystal.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that. No, but I think this information that you're giving people is important for everybody to have, because tuning things and finding energies in things is where you begin your journey. It's learning to blend your energy, learning to cleanse your energy, learning to feel the energy in other objects and things. And certainly crystals are one thing that I adore. So.
Me too. Yeah, and I think that it's also a kind of a reset because everybody's under so much pressure right now, and they're being distracted in so many different areas. I want to positively distract people in a good way. I want to say, let's focus on this for a bit. Let's just play. Let's just play in the field of crystals for a while, or go into the field of color spectrums and look at frequency. No pressure on anything, but just take a dive in there and walk around and feel the energy and reset because I really think it's important. Otherwise, people go into self-destruct. There's just too much toxicity right now. So, and you can do other things too, but I think this is a nice avenue.
Oh, absolutely. And, just the clear quartz crystals, it's a good starting place.
I agree.
Because they do give you clarity. And there are also the dream stones, the quartz that has the one plane side kind of sheared off. So, and you put it by your bed and it catches your dreams. And it does catch your dreams.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, I didn't mention that one. Thank you for interjecting that. It's excellent. Those are great.
Yeah. I'm a rock lady. I've done gem casting for years.
And you're the rock expert, so thank you for your kind words. Let me know if anything doesn't sound right. But this is my own take on it. So it is what it is. And like I said, everybody has their own perception. You're right. So it is also how you feel with the energetics. So this is my decoding of what I feel and experience when I work with them. So everybody has their own perception and feeling and gnosis of understanding.
Oh, sure.
So.
Sure. And I think the thing is everybody will find their own modality that's appropriate for them.
Truly.
But everybody can benefit from gemstones. I mean, I'm just anyone.
I agree. Everybody's attracted to them, at least people I know. I mean, I don't care. You can't, I don't know, maybe you can walk past a gem store, or maybe some people do. But for me, I always like to go in there and walk around, and I'll always find something. I don't try to, but something will be there.
Something always calls to me, too.
Yeah, it's like going to another planet. I mean, it feels like you're in an alien world because all these different frequencies are there, and they're beautiful, really, when you think about it. And even if you have the luck to go crystal hunting, that would be even more exciting. I don't know if you've ever done that, have you?
Oh, sure. I think the one thing I have never done that I wanted to do, but I'm not dead yet, so I still could, is the Herkimer diamonds.
Yeah.
That's the only place you can find them is Herkimer, New York. And I just I've never done that. Wow.
That'd be really cool if you could do that. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it would be.
Well, I love hunting for anything anyways. I mean, don't get me started with that, but even using, I think we've even talked about, using the rods, to go and hunt around and find water, this and that, and dowsing rods. But yeah, I love to explore, and I think that people should explore more. Just get in tune to your own life, your own environment, whether it's your own residence where you live, or just getting in touch with what's there and the energetics that you've put into that place for, I don't know how many years when people live in their homes. Well, you've been in your own, you lived in that other place, your other house for a very long time.
I was.
Right? Yeah. That's a lot of energy.
I definitely was. I was there 16 years, and prior to that it was 50. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of energy. But think about all the spiritual work, portals, and the energetics. They're just off the charts.
I know. It was, I kind of wonder where the people are that moved into it, because I had two cats in spirit that were there that everybody saw. So, and I haven't noticed them here, so I'm kind of thinking they may have stayed with the house. And it's going to be interesting to see if I hear, somebody asking about, how do we exercise a cat,
Do you ever get to communicate with them, or maybe you should reach out and see how they're doing?
They manifested. They were visible. People saw them all over the place. And
wow.
I talked to them, and I said, I'm moving, and I expect you to come with me. So hopefully they'll turn up.
Well,
it
is the season. It's the season. Samhain's around the corner, and
that's
a lot
true.
of things happening on October 31st, the spirit world. So I would say they probably show up. Maybe they like it there, though. Maybe they enjoy it over there. Who knows? Sounds like they're stuck, though.
Well, yeah, I miss them, so I'm kind of hoping they'll decide to turn up eventually. But I think it's a matter. It's a matter of houses have their own devas that are attached to them, and the house deva may decided that they should stay there. So, I'm not going to argue with the house. So, but I'm not going to kill any of the cats I've got either, so I can have any these in spirit. But I think that people don't understand that concrete objects like houses have devas that are attached to them, and you can talk to the deva, and it's amazing what can happen when you work with the energies that are there.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really important that you mentioned that too. I know I think we've probably talked about this before, but I've had some in my gardens in the past, my rose bushes and such, and I agree with you, and I think most people aren't in tune to that. Some people just forget that, that these multi-dimensional fields are there and vibrating, and there's all these different types of beings and life forms, and that's part of it, that something's there that they should acknowledge, or at least maybe have some communication with at some point. Why not?
Well, my house was on the market for 1.5 years, and I finally sat down and I talked to the devas of the garden and to the devas of the house, and I said, look, I really need to move. I can't take care of you the way you should be cared for, and help me to attract. Help me to help you attract the right kind of people for you. And I, after about a week of talking to the garden and the house, somebody walked in and bought the house. And
That's
I could have kicked
beautiful.
myself, I'm in this field a gazillion years. I sat there for 1.5 years wondering why it wasn't selling. And,
wow.
It was kind of like, okay, Barbara, practice what you preach.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Just setting the intent and asking. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Well, you can put it in motion. That's the magic, isn't it? I bet they inherit some beautiful energies over there from you. They're very lucky, the new buyers.
Oh,
I think
it was a great house. It was on a pond. I had great gardens, and yes, it was magical. There's no doubt about it. And I'm sitting here waiting for everything to settle down so I can start making magic here. And certainly I'm starting because I'm doing the radio shows again, and I'm re-immersing myself into the things that I love, and so that's how you create magic. You do the things that you love, and that energy just overflows everywhere, and the energy is happy energy. So anybody who walks in feels the happiness and is happy as well. So it's an amazing thing. And I mean, a long time ago when I was looking for a house, I would sit outside a house and look at it and tell the agent, no, I don't want to go in there. It's not a happy house.
Nice.
And so I think people should be aware of that.
Right, and you can also tell a lot from the garden, too, from the outside, how happy the land is and how it was nurtured or not nurtured. I've always been able to hone in on that, too. Yeah, definitely. And if there's been trauma there, so I can't figure out, some of these people really like the ghost hunting stuff. And, I mean, you go in there, don't just, try to do something at least to alchemically change it or, frequency-wise heal it or something. But, yeah, just to poke around doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me on that level. I like good things. I like peace. I've been through the dark world. I don't like those, accidentally for them, but not intentionally, but you know what I mean? And it's much nicer to be in a blissful, peaceful, enlightened environment, and also a magical world, a very alchemically, magically charged world. And, why not? If your own home is your own sanctuary, that's the last of your sanctuary right there beside your your temple, your sacred temple, and you want to make sure that you take care of it as best you can.
Oh, geez, yeah. And it is. This is, your home is your sanctuary. And it doesn't have to be painted purple and have crystals all over the place, but you have to allow it to embrace you and to communicate with it. And so, I mean, every time I leave my house, I say goodbye to the cats and goodbye to the house.
Nice.
And when I get back home, I say hi to everybody. It's kind and. I think that you do create that kind of environment, and it doesn't matter if you're in a one-room studio or if you're in a huge mansion. it's how you look at the environment you're in, and are you embracing it? Are you adding to it? Are you becoming a part of it? Is it becoming a part of you?
Right.
And
it does. I mean, it leads through the energetics. Yeah. No doubt about that. And that's why I think people should watch their, when they get angry or something, they've got to shift that energy. Otherwise, the house absorbs all that negativity.
Yeah. And it really does. And you can drive, just for the heck of it, just driving down a road, you can look at houses and you can tell what houses are loved and cherished and are flourishing energetically, and what houses are not. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to be. And I'm not talking mansions. I'm just talking cared for and loved. And it can be like I said, a one-room studio, or it can be a mansion. But you can feel the energy that is being radiated from it, and know whether or not you want to go in or be a part of it. So,
very true. Yeah, they become little light stations,
Yeah, and again, it's a matter of awareness, and I think that's one of the very first things people who are on a journey, on a spiritual pathway, should pay attention to. It isn't just, reading tons of books on philosophy and all of that, and that's part of it too, but being perceptive, being aware, being sensitive is one of the first things you really should be working on within your life.
Definitely. Yeah, that psychic antenna will serve you well. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
That's part of the perception. It's how you see and perceive reality, but then it's multidimensional too, and that's a lot. But these things make your life a little bit easier when you're in harmony with everything around you, especially on that level of consciousness, and it seems like life goes a lot easier. There's no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm. Did you have to do anything particular? Can I ask you, did you have to do anything in particular with your residence when you moved? Did you have to bless it or do anything different when you first arrived at your new place?
Well, I buried St. Joseph upside down in a couple places.
Okay.
I did say goodbye, but towards the end there, I was really talking to it, saying, these people are going to care for you. These people who have money, they'll be able to do the things that I couldn't do. And, I really talked to the house and the garden. So I'm hopeful that they loved it as much as I did. And they have a little baby, and I think that's wonderful. And they have a dog and a cat, which is fabulous. And so, I am sure that the house is going to go through slightly traumatic things here and there, because certainly my color palette isn't theirs, but hopefully, I certainly blessed it, and I think often about it, and I have pictures of it here, but the reality is, I was a keeper of it for a while, and I gave it over to someone who will continue to keep it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think you left a really nice signature for them to work with, something to build. Absolutely. And maybe the land might miss you, though. I think the spirit world over there, the spirits might miss you, though. They get used to you. They get used to you after a while, the energetics associated with it. Yep, no doubt. That's funny that you said you buried St. Joseph in reverse, upside down. So what does that do?
I should be what?
Did you say you buried a St. Joseph, was it?
Upside down, yes.
Okay, so what exactly does that do? Does that kind of close portals, or what does that do?
No, it's a excuse me, it's a very old tradition. Realtors do it all the time when your house isn't selling. They tell you to bury a statue of St. Joseph upside down. And
wow, I did not know that.
Oh God, it's Amazon has all sorts of St. Josephs you can bury in your garden.
Really?
Facing.
Wow, this is something new I've learned. Well, that's good to know.
Well, it does work.
How deep do you have to bury it? What if they find it? Well, they'll figure out what it's for anyway. They'll probably figure out what.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're not going to think it's an occult thing.
No, it's funny, but as long as it's not bones, you're good, right? No. I think that's great. I'd never heard of that before. I was curious. I thought maybe it was kind of a blessing or a sealing or of a portal or something. So very, very interesting.
Well, the house was built over its well, so there is a portal there.
Mhm.
And
wow.
so, but I, I'm sure that it's just fine.
Oh, I think so too. How's your new place though? What's the energy there? Have you had to program anything, or how's that going?
Well, one of the things that I really wanted to be was by water, and of course I'm in Tennessee, so you can't be by water that much. But I found out that shortly after I moved in here to this condo, because I bought the condo without seeing it, and it couldn't be more perfect. But there is a stream that runs right in back of my property, which I didn't know about, until after I moved in. And there is a cemetery there too that's over 200 years old.
Wow.
Which I thought was fabulous. And you want to hear something really synchronistic. There's only one tombstone that you can really read, and it was Thomas F. Smiley, and the Smileys settled this area. It is the Smiley family cemetery.
Wow.
And so I thought, my friend Jeannie and I thought we'd do some genealogy and just check out old Thomas. And he had a sister named Hattie, and Hattie married a man, ready for this, named Aaron DeLong.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yes.
There's no coincidence there.
And he is a relative by marriage,
oh my goodness.
but he is a relative.
Wow. Talk about being moved to one location. That's interesting. There's just no coincidence in life. You know what I mean? It's just a synchronistic stream. Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, I stood there and I looked at the genealogy thing and I said, "Oh, you must be joking." And nope. And he traces his ancestry right back to the same ancestor I do. So it's going to take some digging for sure, but I'm pretty sure I am related here. So I'm not a northerner who's come to the deep south. I'm a northerner who's come home.
My goodness, that's so interesting. That's very cool. There's something really special about that. That's just, wow. What are the chances of it? That's what I mean by what are the chances of that? There is no, because everything's put in place accordingly. It's all there. It's different.
I was meant to be here.
Yep, certainly were.
For sure.
I'm glad. But I'm glad that all worked out.
I think everybody, if you relax into accepting what comes your way instead of trying to manipulate it, and this goes for your spiritual pathway as well. It's kind of like this comes up and it's in front of you, and it's like, what the heck? I'll give it a try. Instead of having something in your mind as far as, okay, this is what a master spiritual teacher or whatever, excuse me, does or says or is. It's kind of like you can't manipulate a spiritual pathway. The pathway is there before you enter this lifetime. Mm-hmm. So, you can try to take detours, and you can take them, but you're going to end up on the same pathway anyhow. That's
true. Yeah, that's true. You go through a few wormholes here and there, and then you learn real quick that we could have taken an easier route here. At least my life. I can tell you that much. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think people want to be on a spiritual journey. They're just not sure how to do it or how to start it. And the biggest thing is to get to know yourself, your own energy. And because we're all so different, our pathways are so different, to be with a particular teacher for any length of time isn't appropriate, because then you're just learning somebody else's pathway, and you're going to have to go find your own eventually anyhow.
Right.
So
and there's entanglement too. So I agree with you on that. Yeah. How about empowering people? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was going to say, you've written a couple of really good books that help people look for their own treasures and their own gifts in their own way. And I recommend all of your books.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm very That's very, very flattering. Thank you very much. It's very humbling, actually.
Well, I mean, I tell people I steal most of my stuff from you anyhow, so I don't steal, I just enhance it.
No, you already know. Anyways, you're a teacher's teacher. I told you that before. Were you kidding?
Well, you wrote a book about it. I don't have to. So
there you go.
And I totally agree with what you wrote. And you do give people really good advice, really good suggestions, and empower them to find their own, their own way. Because, it's not one way is the only way. It's your spirit's way is the only way. And you can go follow somebody else. You can become a follower of who knows. But bottom line is, ultimately, you'll have to get on your own pathway again, and it's okay. If you don't want to do it this lifetime, you will have another lifetime you can do it in. So
I agree. And it's nice to have tools of empowerment. If people just show you little tidbits, little fractals of data here and there, you just pick them up along the way. And you get your information, and you keep going, and keep riding that wave. It's a lot easier. I think that the hardest thing for people to deal with, once they're merged with their own higher self and creation, it's hard to walk away from that because you know how it feels energetically, right? I think that's what I don't think people have had a taste of that. It's like the Holy Grail. I don't think they've ever been able to really embrace it. And that's one of the reasons I like to approach this on this level, is just to kind of tune them back or forward into where they belong. I mean, it's like, the distraction here is ridiculous. And I have to get myself out of the distraction. Don't get me wrong. You know how fiery I can get. But I also know that there's a bigger spectrum here, and we have to focus on that. That's going to get us home.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think what you're going to do with these shows and giving people, a little bit here and a little bit there, and giving them tidbits to chew on and to masticate and to either digest or spit out and say, no, that doesn't work for me. I think that what you're doing is fabulous with this, and it's a great idea, and I think, I'm sorry you haven't been doing it for the last 20 years, because you have so much that you can share with people that is just so profound.
Well, thank you, and likewise to you too. Well, thank you for opening the space for me. I don't know what it was. I just thought, well, I'm glad I did, and thank you. Like I said, to be over here at Nightlight, and it just feels right, and we'll just go with it and see what happens. And like I said, and I'm open to anybody. If you want me to address a certain topic, let Barbara know or contact me, and I'm happy to address that as well. But I do feel like it's something that's needed right now. So, just one of those things like kind of like when you move, it's kind of like, well, I'm just going to do this. I don't know where it's going, but let's just put it out there and let it roll.
Well, on top of this element of getting to know yourself and your own energy too, meditation is one of the other things that just about every spiritual master that I've ever read about or studied, the one thing they all talk about is meditation. And finding your own way, and there are so many. I mean, you don't have to sit in a certain position and chant. There are just so many different ways of meditating. Everybody will find their own. I used to do needlepoint. I used to paint. Anything that shuts your ego off so that it goes out to lunch, and Spirit has a way of getting through to you and talking to you, and it's sort of like you have to stop thinking and start listening. And
I agree.
And that's when inspiration, and that's when messages from your higher consciousness come through, and that's when answers come that you've been seeking. So
I agree. And I know a lot of people get overstimulated right now, especially with technology and all this other stuff going on. It's hard for them to switch off. And doing something constructive like what you're doing and describing, the painting, the channeling of the energy, moving it, you're moving, but you're not completely in this kind of, that forced mantra type stuff. So, yeah, that's definitely helpful. What's really funny is, coming from the martial arts background where I come from, I'm used to moving energy. I don't know if you know much about me, but I was state champ women's advanced kickboxing back in the day. I'm a martial arts second-degree black belt. So I'm pretty intense when it comes to my energy. And I noticed that I have to kind of switch gears a little bit as I get older. I still have the skill level, but it's still like, you just have to take care of your body. The temple has to not be damaged, and you try to keep it as healthy as you possibly can. So I switched gears and got into ballet, which I studied when I was very young. But I found that when I started doing this, it's like, my gosh, it's like yoga for me. I love it. So I've been doing that. So just like, an outlet. I'm just saying this is something that's moving the energy, but it's also allowing for more flexibility and core strengthening. It's really good for you. So I just, for me, that was something that worked for me. So the little things that help the temple as you're going along the way,
And yoga and Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm. Tai
Chi is another wonder for those who can't sit still. Tai Chi is fabulous because you're so focused on moving correctly, and when you do move correctly, you feel the energy immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it for those who need immediate gratification, that's a great form of it.
Yes, it is. I taught Qigong and Tai Chi in my for warm down, and I had more people attending that class back in the day than they did my martial arts class because they loved it. There was like this kind of high feeling. It was just, they get centered, but they're moving, and they just feel really good, and it builds up their prana.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely a very good one also. Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I know they use it a lot for people who came out of surgery, and they're trying to recover with their prana. A very gentle movement was very helpful for people who've had any type of health issues. So that's something you look at, too, as you're recovering. But the thing is, you don't want to go to that level. You want to get yourself and stay as healthy as you can while you're here. Even if you're getting older, you just try to do the best you can to maintain your body and do things that work with the body, energetically, body, mind, and spirit. Because if you're too hard on the body, it's not going to hold up. I'll say that right now. So, another my 2 cents in there.
Well, I tried Qigong. Tai Chi. I tried Tai Chi, and I have I have vertigo, so I kept falling over and I kept knocking people down. They kicked me out.
Oh no! What was this?
Well,
how long ago?
Oh gosh, this is 20, 30 years ago.
Okay, and you don't have vertigo anymore, though.
Oh yeah, no, I do. It's from a car accident, and it's really cool. It for the longest time gave me the greatest excuse to grab onto good-looking men and say, I'm not hitting on you. I have vertigo, and I just need some support. And at least 2 times out of 10, it was truthful.
Well, that's funny.
We had a lot of nice people that way.
Why not?
But,
that's interesting. So it didn't help the vertigo, huh? The Tai Chi?
No, because I couldn't keep my balance.
Okay. I wonder what would. Have you ever thought about anything else? But it doesn't sound like you have it all the time, do you, or no?
No, it comes and goes. It's not bad. I think now Qigong is cool. I have a Qigong hammer, and I just love it.
Nice.
Have you ever used the Qigong hammer?
I haven't.
It's a little hammer. It looks almost like a ball peen hammer, and it has a magnet on one side and not on the other. And you gently are able to touch places where there are knots of energy, and it disperses the energy.
Oh, that sounds great.
Oh, it is.
That's great.
So cool.
I haven't used that.
Are you serious? Because the Qigong hammer.
No, I am.
It's just.
You're nice too.
You use it.
I'm used to working with the energy, but I didn't. Go ahead.
Well, the Qigong hammer you have to use with a very limp wrist, and you let the hammer actually be the drop of the hammer is all the force you do. You don't really hammer somebody with it. You let the head of the hammer drop onto different places, and it releases energy in shoulders and necks almost immediately. And the best part that I like is the bottom of the feet, because you can touch all of the trigger points there, and it's amazing.
Wow, that sounds fabulous. I'd say I probably need someone to help me though, if I can do certain points. But if you get it on the back, you need someone to actually. So obviously this is for 2 people or somebody, a practitioner maybe.
Well, it's you usually if you're doing somebody else's neck or shoulders, you usually put your left hand on their spine so you don't hit a bone, and you just look for the places where there are bunches of energy and usually it's in the shoulders, top of the shoulders and stuff. You don't hit bones because that hurts, but but it really is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can't find one, let me know. I may have two, and I'd be happy to share.
Wow. I'm happy to buy one. Yeah, it sounds fabulous. I don't know why this is the first, like I said, I'm learning from you now, so I'm glad you chimed in. And I'm sure the listeners do too. I don't know how many people, I taught Qigong. I never heard of the hammer before. So, yeah, I'm thinking universal energies, but I'm not thinking, objects, physical objects. So, very, very interesting.
Well, my sister introduced me to it. She does Tai Chi and Qigong, and she does all sorts of stuff. And she gave me the hammer, and I wrote away for directions, thinking, I want to learn it. And they came, and they were all in Chinese. So, she showed me how to use it, and she said, just be guided. And I looked at her like, okay.
Well, that should be easy for you.
I was a big hit at the psychic fairs for a while because if it got slow, everybody came over to get hammered.
Oh, that's cute. Well, so it's been around for a while.
Oh, for a long time.
Wow, I don't know why I never ever noticed. I never even thought about that. No one ever mentioned it to me. All the years I studied, nobody ever brought that up. Well, thank you.
Maybe it wasn't the right time for you yet.
I guess not, because I've been working hardcore energy stuff for a long time. Or maybe I would have hurt somebody with it. No, I'm just kidding. That sounds great, though. It's wonderful. Just like the tuning forks and all the other wonderful things you can use, all kinds of cool stuff you can do to heal the body.
I think the only thing that I caution people against, or not against, but I caution people, is that a lot of these tools, like dowsing rods, like pendulums, like crystals, just don't let the tool become a crutch.
Right.
Because then you give it too much power, and then it's not as useful as it should be.
Mhm. Yep. You're the device. That's the bottom line. These are just extras.
Yeah.
Extra tools for the toolbox. Yeah, no doubt about that. And it's true, you don't want to be codependent on anything. It's just like we were talking about teachers and instructors. And you want to make sure that you can fly on your own and be able to recover if you start losing your balance insofar as even multidimensional fields of energy and your own spiritual progressions. You have to recover yourself in the end.
Sure.
You really do. There's no doubt about that. I know what it's like to go through those dark worlds, and you get out of it okay. And then if you go into a world where, you're just not... not in the right realm, so to speak, when you're in the vibrational field, you'll eventually get there. Just keep calibrating. Get to where you need to be. No doubt.
Well, the light is always there, and everybody has that crystal fragment inside of them, so that even if it feels like it's a dark time, you have the light inside. And,
very true.
And it's just a matter of beginning to facet yourself so that light can shine out. And it is not something that it's not like school. It is like school, except it's lifetimes of school. And so you may not see mastery. You may not see, completion, because it's the spiritual journey is like an onion. There's always another level to uncover. And it's you talk about master teachers, and master teachers are probably the biggest students around. And I did a spiritual development group for a lot of years, and I think I learned more than they did. Just trying to find different ways of presenting the same topics so that they could stretch themselves, and in doing that, I was stretching me as well. So it was it was an amazing adventure for me.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. You never stop learning. There's no doubt about that. You're right about peeling away all these different layers and fields of energy. The ones that don't even matter, actually, some of them are just more about the linear world and the programs and the social engineering and all those things that need to be kind of, removed and shed so that you can actually discover the real facets behind who you really are. And I think that's really interesting as well. But, yeah, the funny thing is, I remember when I was doing a lot of teaching, the only way not to lose your edge is to be in there teaching, but actually doing it with them. And that's one thing that I've
yeah.
always done in the past, because if you just sit there and walk around, you got to get involved. and once again, like I said, there's always something to learn every day, like the conversation we're having tonight. There's always something new.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is beautiful. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't mean to interrupt, though. I'm sorry.
You're not interrupting. You're great. I love you. You're awesome. We appreciate you. I know everybody appreciates you over here. And it's very happy that you're, I think Nightlight's fabulous. I'm glad you're doing your network. Congratulations.
Well, Nightlight has turned into a living entity in and of itself, so I'm along for the
in dark
ride.
times you need the Nightlight, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny. When I started painting mandalas, I did it for fun, and then there was such a demand for them, it got overwhelming, and then I created a deck of cards, and I'm still on that journey. I'm still on that ride. It just, it's amazing. Everything seems to morph into the next level in a new direction, and so long as you are, so long as, I guess I can speak only for me, so long as I am comfortable with not directing and steering, but going with where the energy takes me, I'm fine. It's when I decide to steer that I get in trouble.
I think that goes for everybody. I think this is, you can't force certain things. That's the bottom line. Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem people run into is the need to just completely control everything. I am a control freak. Don't get me wrong. I mean, to some degree, but I also know when to surrender to the streams of creation. So there's a time when I just let the universe take the helm, So, no doubt about that. It's much easier for me in the long run. Not being lazy, but just allowing the energies to flow and let that happen.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's when magic happens. It's sort of, I mean, I bought this condo sight unseen. I had no idea there was a stream or a graveyard or that I was related to it.
Wow.
And, it was the weirdest thing ever. And that's an example of this feels right. And when I sent my son to look at the place, he said, "Don't you want to come and look?" I said, "Nope, that's it." And he said, "Mom, this is a lot of money." And I said, "I know, but that's where I belong." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "I'm positive. Buy it." I mean, he bought it with my money. He did, I would love to think my son bought it for me, but no, he didn't. But when something falls in your lap and says, "Here I am," you go for it. And
I agree.
The first time I saw it was when I saw pictures, but the first time I saw it was when I was here with the moving van.
Wow.
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, some part of you already knew everything. That's what I mean by that blueprint that's always there.
Oh, yeah.
Template was there for you. And whether it was an aspect of you that was guiding you to the destination, who knows? But it's fascinating. You always kind of wonder if it wasn't one of your multidimensional sides to who you are that knew what was going on over there and just sent you over there. I don't know. I mean, obviously, divine forces are working there too, but it's always very fascinating. Right place at the right time.
And I think that the people who are looking for their spiritual journey have to become, well, how everybody has a term that they can apply to themselves, at some point in time. A long time ago, everybody was a light worker and, all sorts of things. And at one point, I called myself a spiritual empath because it was a term not everybody used, so I was comfortable with it. And now I call myself a bridge walker. In that I have one foot in the physical and 1 foot in the spiritual.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. That's very pretty. It suits you. Yeah, that's very nice.
So in 5 years, it will become a term that everybody uses, and I'll have to figure out another one.
Well, you know what?
But,
you're the first one who said it, so you know how that works. Oh, I like that. I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, though. It's a secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. just everybody's listening.
Well, people ask you to describe what you are and what you do.
Oh, you know what? I don't even, an alien.
Well, well, you do so much, and you have experience in so many different areas.
It sounds arrogant when I put it on a bio, and it's unintentional, just my experience. It's kind of like a resume.
It's embarrassing, though, after a while, isn't it? I know sometimes people read my bio, and I'm embarrassed by it. It's like,
I don't even want people to read my bio hardly. I'm just like, I'm not. It's just like, it's long, but it's true. But it's still like so, so. I don't know. But it is what it is, because Go ahead.
Yeah, but you did not do any of that stuff intentionally because it would make for a good bio.
Oh, heck no. No, it's actually who I am. I just wrote down what I do, who I am, what I'm skilled at, where I was certified, this, that, and that, and then, where I've been, and that's what it is. So, but it seems really like, bigger than life. It's really not. That's what it is. Everybody's like, this and that, and so I don't know. I just want to say I'm just a little alien now. But I nudge, wink, wink, but you know better.
Aren't we all?
I'm telling you. We have our little antennas. We've got our, little. It's like that. My favorite Martian. Oh, I digress. But that was a cute series.
I love that show.
Mhm. It's really cute.
No, it is a. I think so many people today are becoming more comfortable and aware with the fact that their spiritual journey does not have to get in the way of practicing a religion or having a job. It's another element, another level, another aspect of the person that they are. And it's amazing that people are more and more comfortable with it. And I'm seeing more and more people being more cognizant of their spiritual life than they are their religious practice. I'm not saying we're drawing away from religion, but the spirituality that is part of them becomes more important, and I think that's. I mean, however they get there, I don't care. But the fact that they're understanding that it isn't just a one day a week where you go and you sit and listen. It's how you practice your spiritual philosophies on a daily basis.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
and it works
a stepping stone. I just had this discussion, actually, just last night on my other show. But it is. It's just a step. Religion is a stepping stone to get you to one level. But then you go and you expand outward and you go beyond it all. And that's my opinion, anyways. And we keep evolving and moving and can become more spiritually enlightened. And then there is no boundary. There's no religion because everything is a oneness in consciousness. So you don't have all these programs running that are connected to religion and indoctrination. And I think that's, what people need to kind of attune themselves into that world of the cosmic design and understand that. I think they are. And that's a good sign because they're shedding this density associated with all this control connected to religion and forced indoctrination in programs. So, yeah.
Well, I think in some ways religion gets you tuned into the actual fact that there is spirituality out there. And for many it is a wonderful stepping stone. It's one of the building blocks that that you step on your way to ascension and transmutation and all of that. So it's I am in favor of giving children a background and then letting them choose where they want to go. And certainly weaving the spirituality in amongst everything else too. But spirituality is how you live your life. And it's important. And
it's an extension of consciousness,
Yeah, nobody's looking except you. And and that's the important thing.
Children know how to be spiritual. I think they really do. I think they get indoctrinated. And it's okay, like I said, if you want to have them, learn certain. I studied a lot of different religions, and even when I was younger, so I understand. I'm not, I'm very attuned to different things. But I think kids normally they just know. They just have that spiritual benchmark that gets them beyond it all. They see behind and beyond everything, even when they're attending a church, for example, and such. They go beyond it psychically, energetically. They're already there.
Oh, I agree totally. I had a lady once come to me and she said, I don't understand. I can't make connection with spirit. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I said, well, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm praying, and then I'm chanting, and then I light a candle, and then I meditate, and then I pray some more, and I don't get any answers. And I said, well, that doesn't surprise me. You're boring the heck out of everybody on the other side. Why don't you just open yourself up? I said, you don't need all that.
Yeah.
Spirit's
Yep,
there. Stop sending messages one way and start listening to get messages from the other side.
Truly. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, there's star bodies, too, the spirit within, that's so funny. That I think they overthink things. A lot of people do tend to overthink and overdo. You don't have to. Make it simple, really. I mean, there's a time and place for meditation and candles and this and that, but really you are the instrument, like we were discussing, even with the crystals or whatever. Those are nice, but that's not the power. You're the power. All those are is extra amplification for this and that. But, yeah, I mean, once you get to understanding everything, you are the matrix of consciousness, and, you can just set everything by intent like you do. It's a magic in motion. That's the beauty of it.
Well, absolutely, and I, it's so simple, and yet it's so hard. And it's very simplistic in how you open to it, but you have to break so many other patterns to get to that point that it becomes difficult. We've been
programmed.
And
I think that's where the healing comes in.
Yeah, and we have to deprogram ourselves.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes it takes a facilitator. I consider us to be facilitator types. So we're in there. We're not doing it for them, but we're moving the energy enough so that they can start recalibrating to their own design. And I think that's a really big deal because everybody's got the patterning. They've got that social engineering, the overlays, and it has to go. There's no place for it. It's not functional. It's not even functional here. And it's just and that's when they seek. They seek the light. And that's good. I always had the light within me. I was never seeking other people. I always seemed to have it with me as soon as I showed up here on this world. But, I had to fine-tune it. It wasn't something that was just like, I had to fine-tune what I was getting. But nonetheless, I think some people don't have that, or maybe they're, just kind of being cloaked in some way. That's why we appreciate beings like you and, being out there and teaching all these years. You've done a great job getting out there and interacting and teaching, being the spiritual teacher and helping people on the timeline.
Well, it's how I grow, and it's how, like I said before, it's how I learn. And Nightlight has been an amazing tool. I mean, I have met some fabulous people, and because I have to read at least a book a week, and I love to read. So it has given me a structure that has enabled me to grow in a lot of new directions. And, it never stops. There's always, I think the coolest thing about it is no matter how much you learn, there's always so much more that you can get into and make trouble with. So
exactly.
I mean, it's just, and every now and then I hit a topic that, or I find a book in which the author is dead, and I jokingly said to Mark Eddy a couple times, well, maybe I can just channel him. And,
you probably could.
Well, I'm thinking about it in some cases. I mean, there are some topics that I'd love to learn about and, talk to an author about, and there were a couple that fascinated me, and I couldn't find anybody who would want to be on the show. So I said to Mark, I'm just going to learn. I'm going to read 2 or 3 books, and then I'm just going to do a show on it myself. I'll show them.
I would. Just interpolate it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. No, the Knights of the
Golden... Didn't you do with the Emerald Tablets, too?
Oh, I'm still working on that one.
But that's what I mean. You have the database. I know you're an old being like me. I mean, we just hone in on the frequency. We can extrapolate information.
Oh,
no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Well, who was it? Pope Joan I thought would be fun to go into. Knights of the Golden Circle is another one I want to go into.
Sounds good. Wow, I'm interested. Let me know when that show comes out. I want to hear it.
I have the books sitting here. I am gonna definitely get involved in it. But
you're committed now. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. definitely. And it's that's what's so great about Nightlight. I can go in any direction that calls to me, and unfortunately, so many call.
Well, I think it's good because even with you, I'm having a wonderful conversation with you, and I know the listeners are benefiting as well. So it's been really nice to have you chime in, and it's just we always have really, really expanded conversations, and I keep learning too. There's so much I still want to do. I mean, there's so many things I'm so interested in, and I tell you, it's I don't have enough time in the day, and the illusion of to learn everything I want to learn, and I think I'm pretty smart, right? I'm not arrogant, but there's so much more. There's so much more.
Oh yeah.
And it's
always,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how many master's degrees you have. That doesn't count for anything, unless, of course, it's in a job. But as far as spirituality goes, that's out the door. What have you read? What have you discussed? And that's why when with Nightlight, I read the books and I won't do an interview with somebody if I haven't read the book. I just won't. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, you have to honor their work, and then you have to be able to absorb it. And I will admit there are a couple of books where I probably understood about 60% of what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But
at least you took the effort. I mean, you made the effort to read it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You might have absorbed some of it subconsciously. Who knows?
I would hope. But after talking to the author, you understand more, So it's really kind of cool.
Right.
And it keeps you sharp. It keeps you on your toes. So
I agree.
That's the point.
I think that's why I've been doing radio. It does. It keeps you engaged in conversation and communication and research and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah.
Well, what was it? What was it that suddenly made you want to start teaching like this? I think it's a great idea, but I've been wanting to get you on Nightlight for a long time, and suddenly there you are. And
maybe you did it. You must have touched your nose. I don't know. You know what it is? I just found it to be dark times, and I see myself not going off the path. I am the path, but the idea behind that is this: I think people need it right now. It's the grail that people need, and it's not just about me. It's just about giving them fuel for the spirit, fuel for the soul, and moving them into a field where they can empower themselves better. That's all. And I've spent a lot of time interviewing people with my other radio shows, and I don't have any time to really talk to anybody unless it's my Patreon, where I do videos and instruction. Mm-hmm. But this is a little bit different. This is me just being really raw, organically, and spiritually talking about certain topics that I found helpful to me and to my clients over the years that I just wanted to share. And that's pretty much what I'm doing, and I appreciate, like I said, the platform and working with you. I've known you for a while now, and I just love you. So it's real easy for me to be over here, and I appreciate it. So, but that's what got me over here is just to help, if I can, and if not, that's right. It's kind of like just let them digest what they need and throw out what they don't need. So that's how that works.
No, I think it's such a great idea, and there are so many topics that you have expertise in that you certainly can, shed light. And or just titillate people to the place where, and I think that's what a great teacher does. It gives just enough they give just enough information to make somebody hungry for more, and because they don't give it, the people have to go find it.
Correct. That's the grill. That's like the grill.
Yeah.
Just one little sip, but then you need more, in a sense. It's just, it's all about spirit, fuel for the soul, fuel for the spirit, fuel for the mind. That's my opinion anyway. Mm-hmm. But I know that how, even from where I've come from, it's just when I read or when I started reading about spirituality back even when I was very young, that to me was my life. I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. So to me it was like, I just wanted more and more of that energy, more and more of understanding consciousness. And I think that's really what people need deep down, even though they don't want to admit it.
Well, I think it's what everybody searches for. When you have nothing else to hold on to, you have that. And,
right. That's right.
It's always there, and sometimes you do have to hit rock bottom to realize that there's still a power in you that is very profound. And
I agree.
Once you surrender to that power, and it's not you're surrendering to an energy that's outside of yourself, it's your power, and it's a matter of taking it and letting it guide you, and lots of times it guides you through coincidences, and I don't believe in coincidences, but having coincidences happen in your life, and if you flow with them, if you take them as directions, they lead you to where you need to be. And
I agree.
It's amazing, and I have found that the more aware you become of yourself and your environment, the greater the tools you have to use. And like we said earlier, it's so simple. You often overlook it and don't pay attention to it.
Yep, they're wrapped up in the moment. No, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by your surroundings. It's all intelligent design. It's conscious. It's aware. We're all connected and interconnected into so many different types of life forms here, plus the universal whole. So that's a big spectrum, my goodness. And we're just on one field, really, even though we're multidimensional. Very interesting.
Absolutely. And I think people, I think you're right. I think people are looking today for finding something to hold on to. And
exactly.
I happen to think that the isolation that the pandemic gave us was the universe giving humanity a time out so people could take the time to find themselves again. And
it's highly possible.
A lot of people have. A lot of people lost themselves too. But,
right. Yeah, it's gone both
but,
ways. It's kind of like being in a isolation chamber. They either make it through to the next space program or they, implode. I'm teasing. Go ahead.
But it is amazing. I mean, I have found, I've met people that have suddenly created jobs for themselves that they never would have done had things not changed, and they seem happier. And so it's there is a section of the population that has thrived in this time frame.
Empowerment
I
comes
did.
to mind.
I thought it was great.
I always work from home anyways, although I did do other work, security-wise. But, I can certainly, I prefer being home. Let's put it that way. I prefer working remotely and doing my own work versus having to work for a corporation and other people calling the shots, and, it's just a lot easier. So, you make the best of the situation, but it's also about empowerment. Learn new skills, all kinds of cool stuff you can learn. I think sewing is one of them, and also harvesting your own food is a really big deal, too. And if you can plant a garden or whatever, I think that's a big deal. So little things that can, empower you along the way.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think you've given people some fabulous advice here. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I thank everybody for listening.
I just noticed the time, so maybe I'll let you just tie it all up.
I think so. Are we just about out of time? I think we have a couple minutes here. I don't even know. Okay, I just want to say thank you to you. Thank you, Barbara, for opening the platform here at Nightlight. I appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the information here and it helps you on some level. And tune in to next time when I'm here, and we'll be discussing an entirely different topic. It's always a pleasure. And remember, folks, keep the nightlight on.
Oh,
no pun intended. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night now.
Good night.